Welcome to the second edition of the Salina Journal's Press Box. I'm Bob Davidson, sports editor of the Salina Journal. Joining me today is Troy Polinsky, and our special guest today is Francis Flax, athletic director, former men's basketball coach, current assistant basketball coach at Brown Mackie College. And we have brought Francis in today because, as a lot of you know, this is the final year for Brown Mackie's basketball program. They're coming to the end of the season. We thought it'd be good to bring the Hall of Fame coach in and have him talk about some of his memories and everything he's been through during his long tenure with the school that will be closing at the end of the 2017-2018 school year. This will be the final year for the basketball program this year. They will not have a team next year. Coach Flax is a member of the NJCAA Hall of Fame and several other halls of fame. He is a legendary figure. He coached Brown Mackie for 23 years, compiling 452 victories. He has been a junior college coach for 32 years with 621 victories. He's made 6 trips to the NJCAA National Tournament, winning the tournament in 1999 and 2005, finishing 3rd in 2013, 4th in 1997 and 1998, 5th in 2010. We're about out of time just going through everything he's done. He's coached 13 All-Americans, 58 All-Region players. He's currently interim athletic director and assistant men's basketball coach to his son Bryson, and this is in retirement. He is general manager of the Salina Liberty indoor football team. And the rest of the time, he's saving the world in the free hours that he has. Troy, you were around when this whole Brown Mackie thing started, and you have some memories of when it all got started.
I still remember attending the press conference with Coach Flax and then John Fralick as you introduced basketball. And I just remember the skepticism that surrounded the introduction of sports at Brown Mackie. And our former managing editor of sports back then, Tim Fitzgerald, wrote a column. And I want to preface this by saying that this column was just saying how you guys had won him over, how Brown Mackie had won him over, and it's a positive column. But just want to read a couple excerpts from his column. He goes, "I admit it. When I heard Brown Mackie College is planning to field sports teams, I laughed. The 1989 announcement was greeted with skepticism throughout Salina. Brown Mackie, a school thought of as a training ground for travel agents and court reporters, playing sports? Get a grip. How could the school ever field competitive teams with a shaky image in the community, no practice facilities to call its own, and a campus that is located above shop fronts of downtown Salina? Brown Mackie, a 2-year business college, fields sports teams? Not a chance." And here we are in 2017, and it's been quite a ride. Coach, how were you able to weather all that and I'm sure you had doubts yourself as you took things over. You had to.
I did. I had a lot of doubts. There were days, particularly in my early days before we actually started men's basketball. At that time, I had to coach softball and volleyball at Brown Mackie. And there were a lot of days I would go home at lunch and didn't want to go back. And the main reason was there wasn't a person in the building that knew anything about athletics. You couldn't strike up a conversation like you would, if you went to get a cup of coffee or around the water fountain. Nobody wanted to talk about sports because nobody knew anything about sports. They did it as a tool to attract more students. And I tell you, Dennis Erkenbrack at Cloud County was a big influence in this because the school met with him at least a couple of different times to talk about the pros and cons, and Dennis kind of encouraged it. And so with that in mind, like I said, I would go home and didn't want to go back, and my wife would tell me, "You're going back." So, I've always been a person that if you tell me you can't do it, I'm going to try to prove to you that I can do it. So I didn't expect it to ever be what it became, and sad enough, as I said here today, in a couple of weeks, it will all be history.
To that end, this has got to be a really tough time for you. You've spent a lot of years and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and this has to be a pretty tough time for you and for Bryson and a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean it's tough for the whole community of Brown Mackie. I mean we've lost since the announcement was made. We've lost all of our admissions staff. We're down to one financial aid person. It's a shame walking down the halls with no new admissions. The classrooms that used to be, you'd have to pull in a couple chairs from another classroom to get everybody seated, now have 3 or 4 students in a class, and half of them are empty. It's just a sad situation all the way around. But it's a decision that was made, and we have to live with it. I do feel bad. I thought that probably that once Brown Mackie was in its prime in athletics, I didn't think it would ever end, particularly not like this. And so I feel bad for the administration that we have now because Dr. Holmes has been as pro athletics as you could ever ask for in a president. And along with that, she's fought for us to get on a level with our competition, and we did that, and in many cases exceeded that.
I'm sure that over the course of time, you've had a lot of memories, most of them good. You try to forget the bad ones, but what are some of a couple of them that stand out in your mind over the course of such a successful career and over the years?
Well, I couldn't begin to put one above the other. There are so many. I never considered myself a very good basketball coach. The 2 things that I could do was recruit and motivate. And, I just, I'll go back to the first. I mean, I had some great players in the very first team that we had in 92-93 season. We had some outstanding players on that team. But, they came from everywhere, and we tried to figure out where we were going to practice and where we were going to play and all that kind of stuff. And that first year is a memory, and those guys still are in touch with each other and in touch with me. I mean, that's the one group that always sticks together is the 92-93 team. On social media, they keep in touch with each other and keep me informed also. But bringing our first real All-American in here, Eddie Robinson, was a highlight of my career. I happened to be in Florida recruiting, and I walked into a junior college gym where the AAU tournament was going to be held, and the coach down there, Rob Flaska, told me, he says, "Hey, if you want a pro, I know where he's at, but I can't get him in school here because we won't take double transfers." And this was June 27th in 1995. I believe it was 1996, excuse me. And by the time that day was over, we had Eddie Robinson slated to come to Salina, and July 5th he was in Salina. And of course he was a first team All-American. It was our first team to go to national tournament. We finished 4th, and we had a lot of good players besides Eddie, but that was a real highlight. Had great players. Darren Kelly in 1999 team, who was MVP at the University of Texas in 2001 after he left here. Of course, along came Lee Benson in 2002. And it just goes on and on and on. And James Williams, Oliver Lafayette, both pros that played for us on the 2005 national championship team. I have a player, one of the most recent ones that is still playing is Rico Spikes. I pulled him out of a Job Corps in Indiana. He didn't have any offers out of high school, and he went to Job Corps. And one of my former players from Highland Community College was coaching at that Job Corps. I brought Rico here. He had 2 outstanding seasons in 2013. Was it 2013 that we took 3rd in the nation? And he was fantastic, and he played, was All-American for us, went to University of Colorado at Pueblo, and he was injured his last year. He had to sit out with injury. This is his senior year. He's having a fantastic year. I'm positive he'll be All-American, and they have an outstanding team. So, you know, I just can't tell you all the good things. And even the guys that I had run-ins with, and several that I sent home, you know, most of them keep in touch with me and tell me that it was the best lesson that they ever had. When somebody just told them the way it was instead of what they wanted to hear, they heard what they needed to hear.
It has to be so difficult. You don't have a campus. You don't have any dormitories. You don't have a food service. I remember one coach used to refer to you as USC, Upstairs College, and then you moved out on Ohio Street, and that gave at least everybody kind of in the same building. They renovated the hardware store, but that made it a little better. But how are you able to overcome just not having the physical campus that all the other schools have?
Well, first of all, there's thousands and thousands of kids out there that don't have a chance, that weren't given a chance. And I tried to, you know, I would go and find those kind of guys. I've been on playgrounds in most of the major cities in the country and just discovered good kids that didn't have a chance. And basically I sold them a dream and told them that, you know, at least we'll have you'll get a chance to get an education, and our basket's 10 foot tall also, just like everybody else's. So, and the nice thing about it is we were able to get most of those kids, particularly the ones that took the classroom halfway seriously, we were able to get them on to 4-year schools. And we've had some success stories in 4-year schools, I can assure you. We've had the MVP at the University of Southern California in Gary Johnson. He was here in 1996, was MVP for Henry Bibby out there in 1998. I had, like I said, Darren Kelly was MVP at the University of Texas. Oliver Lafayette was MVP at the University of Houston. So it's not like we didn't put them on a stage.
My last question, the junior college game is changing. We've talked a lot about the unlimited scholarships that the Jayhawk Conference is going to, and that would make life more difficult, I would think, for Brown Mackie were you still having a team. But the junior college game really is changing, as Troy said earlier.
Yeah, it's changing. You know, since I've been in the game, of course, the three-point line has changed a couple times. Well, it came into effect, first of all, and then it's you know, even expanded. But, you know, all that said about scholarships, there's still a lot of schools that don't have the resources. They're not going to be able to go unlimited out of state, regardless what the rules are. So what I'm seeing in the future, you know, we're Division II, which means you can't give board and room. You can give tuition and books. You can't give board and room. That's all that Division II means. Division I means you can give board and room, books and tuition. You can give them one plane ticket to and from every year, and on and on. Division III, you're not supposed to give any athletic scholarship. If something that's on the horizon at the NJCA level that's going to be voted on this spring, a lot of schools have some sports in Division I, some sports in Division II, and the proposal is you're either all in Division I, you're either all in Division II, or you're all in Division III. My true feeling is it might eliminate Division II. It might be all scholarship or no scholarship. That's how I see it. And I don't know if that's going to come right now, and I don't know if it'll ever come, but that's how I see it working right now.
one last thing. Have you thought about that last game when your last loss and you walk off that court with the Lions and you realize that's it? This is the horns sounded. It's ended the game and ended basketball at Brown Mackie. Have you thought what that feeling might be?
Well, no, I haven't. I haven't thought about that. The only game that besides our game Wednesday night at Highland, which is where I started my junior college career, we go there Wednesday night. But the game that it's going to hit me is this coming Saturday when Heston comes into the gym at K-State Salina, and that will be the last home game ever for us. Now, because the way we're sitting in the picture in the region for the playoffs, our last loss is going to be on the road, regardless where it is. It's and you know, with good Lord being with us, you know, it's the biggest stretch in imagination that you could have that we would end up in Danville. But if that were to happen, like I said, our last loss or our last win is going to be on the road.
Troy, final thought.
How do you want to be remembered when this is all said and done? When people 5-10 years from now look back at Brown Mackie and think of what do you want them to remember?
I think I could go back to what Fitzgerald said. You know, you laugh about it, but I think that most of all, we established something at this school that at that time nobody thought could happen, and along the way nobody thought was going to happen, and we made it happen. I might mention one thing that was the highlight of my career, one of the highlights. I've had so many I couldn't say them, but you know, in 2002, we went into Hutchinson Community College, and we were the first Division II JUCO ever to beat Hutchinson, and we beat them on their home court. And I'll never forget Randy Stang was the athletic director, and he said, "I'll never write you another check," because they used to pay us to go in there. And he said, "I'll never write you another check to come in here and beat us." Well, in 2004, they needed a couple games, so they invited us up there again, and we missed a shot at the buzzer, or right before the buzzer, and tipped it in at the buzzer, and we beat them again. So that I always like to think that was pretty special. But getting back to your question, Troy, I just think that if you put your mind to something, you can accomplish it. You know, I grew up with humble beginnings on a farm with nothing, truthfully, and don't care if I have anything today. All I care about is these guys that we've coached.
All right, thank you very much. I can say personally that there were a lot of fond memories covering Brown Mackie over the years. A lot of great memories. Truly enjoyed working with you. It's a sad day. Saturday will be a sad day for the last game for the Lions. That'll do it for this edition of the Press Box. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time.